them for the next hour, and then you're most welcome to rejoin us. All right. So good seeing you all. Beautiful day. And so I thought we would use this occasion, since it is spring and it's the time for new birth, new growth. I thought that the sun god should not be any exception, that it too should grow. The ideal is to become more and more mature. And so today I wanted to talk to you about the principle of good company and the sadhana of satsang, in the hopes that you have reached that level of maturity now where you can rightly come into relationship with each other. Satsang, fundamentally, as you all know, literally means true association, real company, good company, if you will. Now, good company has many meanings. And ordinarily, conventionally, good company tends to be that kind of company that you have where you're able to enjoy yourself, have a lot of fun, eat food, make jokes, blah, 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 blah. That is a very conventional and ordinary concept of what it means to have good company. The good company and the principle governing that good company that the saints and mystics are talking about has nothing to do with this kind of giddy, gleeful, socializing, so forth and so on. Good company, according to the definition of the gurus, is something altogether different. Good company is that company that challenges you to demonstrate and show all of the signs of your practice. So we will be talking about the real principle of good company and not this kind of good company that you tend to conventionally gravitate toward, the kind of relationship you tend to make with each other. And you must, you see, beloved, become good company for one another. In each other company, you should be moved toward higher and higher and more profound demonstrations of your practice. It should bring out more of the dormant spirituality that is lying within you. Your company with one another should be a test. And you should always be testing each other for the signs of your practice, not the other way. Not simply providing each other with case for letting each other off of the hooks. That is not good company. In fact, that is bad company from a spiritual perspective. That company that tends to let you off the hook, that does not demand from you the demonstration and the showing of all of the signs and evidence of your practice, that kind of company is bad company and is to be avoided on the path. Acha, beloveds, you have to understand that sadhana and real spirituality is necessarily and always a practice that originates within the context of a spiritual community that must nurture, must support, must inspire, but moreover and more importantly, it must test each individual signs of the practice of the Dharma. Are you following me? So today I wanted you to elevate and come to a whole new level of what this is about. Okay? I have been very pleased thus far with your interaction with each other on those occasions when you've been doing Seva for each other, you see? But that has been a kind of elementary form of practice of Seva. Now, Kunsa and Dharani Kamadi and Bajira are going to be doing a workshop for you all later this month where they will offer you some of the arguments about real Seva. Seva as sadhana, and Seva in the true sense of fulfilling the principle of good company. To really appreciate the advantage that you all have by having one another's company, you need to understand a few things. Now, one of the first things that you have to understand is that, yes, let her in. Yes. Leave him out. Now, the first thing that you have to understand is the situation that you are in. When you really understand the spiritual situation that you are in, then you will come to appreciate each other's company all the more. Traditionally, it's been understood that those sadhakas, those who are truly committed to sadhana, truly committed to the realization of that which can only be realized in the case of self-transcendence. Those who are really committed to the self-realization and the God-realization process must renounce the world. This is just clear. It has always been so. Now, this renunciation of the world does not necessarily have to take the form of the abandonment of your family, the abandonment of work, and so forth and so on, although some of you rascals probably could do that easily. You're on your way already. But seriously, though, that pattern of renunciation is not practical today. In ancient times, there were many wildernesses where a person could really go and live in solitude and isolation in order to devote all of their time, energy, and attention to the disciplines associated with the ordeal of self-realization. Because the ordeal requires your time, and these are the things you have to understand. This process requires time, energy, and attention. That's what it takes. You hear me say over and over again, the path takes what it takes. That's what it takes. It takes your time, it takes energy, it takes attention. Now, the problem is this, beloveds, that most of us, and most of you, like many other people on the path, are practicing from the context of a householder, married or single. If you're single and you have a house, you have bills and a job, you're a householder, technically. Or a semi-householder. You just don't have any spouse. You may even have children. And thus you are burdened with all of the responsibilities of maintaining a household. So you're still a householder. Those of you who are not householders perhaps are still at some kind of lower state where you are being taken care of by a householder. In any case, the point I'm making is that you're in a situation where time, energy, and attention comes at a premium. Is that right, beloved? Almost all of your time, energy, and attention is devoted to the maintenance of your household, the running of your families, and so forth and so on. This is why in ancient times, Monica could stay, he'd stay out. This is why in ancient times, those who were householders were not even initiated. Isn't that interesting? If you was a householder, you could not get initiated into the higher diska at all. Why? Because it was clearly understood that you have already, as an individual, presumed that you could find happiness in the world. That's why you became a householder in the first place. Are you following me? You decided that you would pursue the things in the world to become happy. That's why you got you a wife, you got you some children, you got you a job, you got you a house, and so forth and so on. All of those actions are the actions of a person fundamentally who is committed to fulfillment in the world, a householder. And the ancient mystic realized then that this person, attention, time, and energy, will be caught up in that whole process. Therefore, they will have no time, no attention, and no energy available for the path. Hence, there was no need to initiate them. They were very different than today. They demanded from you your time, your energy, and attention in the form of renunciation of the world. Are you following my argument? Well, of course, today, this kind of pattern of renunciation into the forests and so forth and so on is no longer possible. It's not even practical. In fact, you go try to live the renunciate life down in Grant Park and see what happens to you. Some of you know firsthand. You will be arrested for vagrancy and so forth and so on. So there's almost no place in the modern world, particularly here in the Western world, where you can really, truly practice the ancient pattern of renunciation, even if you wanted to. So that pattern has to be adapted for these modern times. Are you following me? But it still takes what it takes. That doesn't change with time. It still takes time, energy, and attention. And I want to remind you at this point, those of you who are making your goal merely 2.5 hours of meditation, let me assure you that you will make no progress in this lifetime. You won't make any progress for a long time. 2.5 hours is the absolute rock bottom minimum. If you are only doing 2.5 hours of meditation a day, and some of you are not even doing that, you can hardly expect to tip the balance at all. That's not going to work. Mind running, undisciplined, for 20-some hours a day cannot be trained in 2.5 hours. That's just not going to happen. 2.5 hours will just keep you barely sane on the path. That's about all that it will do. But you certainly are not going to make any progress. You must put in more time than 2.5 hours. Are you following me? More energy than that 2.5 hours. And you must give your spiritual practice more attention than just that 2.5 hours if you are really seriously expecting to make any real progress on the path. Are you following me, beloveds? So I want you to understand today what the path really takes. And on the basis of that understanding, appreciate each other's company and begin to see it as your advantage. Hopefully, as we continue our discussion today, you will begin to see clearly and practically how each other's company is your advantage. Well, the problem becomes, how do you get more time, energy, and attention? You're having a hard time in your householder condition getting 2.5 hours, aren't you? Isn't that the truth? You're struggling like hell, most of you. Just getting 2.5 hours. Because again, all of your time, energy, and attention is being consumed by your being a householder. Now, Maharaji and all saints have said that, well, you can still travel the path if you're a householder, but you will have to still become a renunciating householder. Are you following me, beloveds? That's what you've been missing. You will still have to practice a species and pattern of renunciation within the context of being a householder. And that looks very different from the kind of householderism you're practicing. The kind of form of householderism that you're practicing leads to no progress at all. Because you can't get any time for the practice. You don't have any energy for the practice. You can't give it attention. Your attention is too distracted and consumed. All of your time is devoted to maintaining your household. So all your energy is there. You have no energy left for sadhana and the practice of real spirituality. How do you get it? That's the function of a sangha. The function of being a member of and a participant in a sangha is expressly the advantage that a householder has in the form of seva. It is through this seva at the level of sadhana that you free each other's time, energy, and attention up. Now try to understand me. When you are instructed by me to go do seva, the seva I want you to become capable of is the seva where you go and you give each other the gift of time, energy, and freedom of attention. Let me put it very simple. I'm doing seva for Rajavira this week, right? Minimally, I should go and give him 2.5 hours of my time to take over whatever he needs to do to free him up to go sit his ass down and practice. That's the function of seva. Not for me to come over your house and do seva and you take a nap. Not to come over and do seva for you and we go out and eat in a restaurant somewhere. How is that helping you? That is not good company. You follow me? I have not freed you of anything. I have not given you the gift that is seva, right? So by having each other company, you see, you are able to give each other the gift of time. Isn't that a very different proposition, beloved? Very different, isn't it? And because that individual is sacrificing and giving you the gift of time, you must make right use of that time that they're giving you and devote it now to your practice, because that's your whole problem. You don't have enough time. You're on the run all the time. You are inundated with all of the responsibilities and obligation that goes with being a householder, so forth and so on. I understand that. So I give you one another as a gift to each other. Are you following me? Each of you are my gift to each other for the express purposes of freeing you up. And you do that for my sake. If I was personally rendering the seva, that is exactly what I would do. I would come and, Gurumurti, I'll take Kunsa grocery shopping that evening. I'll take the children to the dentist appointment, or whatever your responsibility was in that moment. I will assume them on your behalf, right? So that you may have your time for your spiritual practice, right? Because that's what you need, right? That's seva. And anything else is just conventional. Yes, beloved?
Where the idea was to get with people and do something together with them and all that. Where did all that come from?
Yeah, that's all right. That was in the beginning stages, okay, so that you just get to know each other.
All right.
Right? Because most of you didn't even know each other. You didn't get a feel for each other. So it has its place, you see. And I've been very pleased with that. Although some of you couldn't even do that. Some of you were so inundated in terms of your time, energy, and attention, caught up in your own little household rhythm, you couldn't even spend social time with each other. So you know you're going to have a hard time going to this next level. And I want you to understand, it is only this principle of seva which governs the whole philosophy of good company that I count. Everything else is rhetoric. It has no cash value to me. You have to understand, beloved, is that the Dharma, the path, is not a matter of your belief. This is not religion. I'm not calling you just to believe in this and be saved on your belief. That's religion. You're in the wrong place. This is not religion. You must do Dharma. Are you following me? Not believe in the Dharma. That's never good enough. The practice and fulfillment of the principle of good company, beloved, is really the demonstration in the doing of I love you. Please understand the distinction. I am calling you to do I love you, not just to expound it rhetorically. And when I'm doing I love you, for you, Gurumurti, I am sacrificing for you my own time, energy, and attention for your sake. That's a demonstration that I love you. Is that about right? That goes way beyond rhetoric, doesn't it? Everything else is rhetoric. So I'm taking the notch up. And that's all right. Some of you will fall out of the lottery saver. I understand that. As some of you fell out initially, just out of the social level of it all. It's all right. You know what I mean? It doesn't lessen my love for you, but you should simply be clear that it is simply a sign of your immaturity. You have not yet matured. And it's all right, too. We'll work on that. There's some things that you just have to reconsider. But certainly, I wanted to clear up in your minds any confusion about whether you're on the path. You're not on the path simply because you believe in the Dharma. Are you clear? Is anybody in here not clear about that? Because I want to be very frank about it. Very frank about it. I realize we're in a kind of situation where this may be a little sensitive and you may be a little hesitant to openly voice your position. That's all right, too. You can email me, call me. We can talk about it. That's all right. You see? But I certainly want to clarify that today. You are not on this path simply by virtue of your belief in the Dharma. This is not Christianity. That's what the Christians do. They believe in Jesus, and then on the basis of their belief in Jesus, they presume to call themselves Christians without any of the signs or demonstration of being anything Christ-like. And they tend to bring that same mentality over here into the house because they are conditioned to think like that, pattern. My task is to help break that conditioning and that pattern so that when you come to the house, you clearly understand you're not coming to no church. Don't bring me your mere beliefs in the Dharma. You must simply show me what you're working with at all times. You must always, in my company and in the company of each other, demonstrate the signs of your practice. Yes, beloved.
So when we do Seva, and we're over, the person's house, immediately, do we remind them to go hit it or?
Oh yes. See, this is the whole principle. This is the whole principle of good company, and that's what we're here to talk about a little bit. As I said before, and I'll repeat it again, when we're talking about satsang, you have to understand satsang is a discipline. It is sadhana. It is a part of the practice, no less important than your vegetarianism, your teetotalism, your meditation, right? It is sadhana, right? And it includes many things, right? And part of that is Seva, isn't it? And so forth. Now, I'm not going to go into the Seva argument because Kunsadam are going to do a much better job than me. So I'll leave you to the best. And in any case, what I want you to clearly understand, when you become a satsangi, and a satsangi means one who participates in the sadhana, in the discipline of real association. Are you following me? That's what makes you a satsangi. A satsangi is a member of the sangha that is participating in all of the disciplines associated with that membership. Are you following me? You are not a satsangi merely at the level of your rhetoric and your philosophy and your belief system. That is not what makes you a satsangi. A satsangi is the result of participation. And that participation is very specific. I've said already that real sadhana and real spirituality is and always and necessarily is a practice that originates, grows, continues to grow within the context of a sangha or spiritual community. And that spiritual community is purposed to support, to nurture, to inspire, and most fundamentally to test you, each and every one, for the demonstration of the signs of your practice, right? Now, these signs of your practice should be demonstrated in all of your relationships, even those that are not necessarily connected with the Sangha, but certainly within the Sangha, you are coming in the community of other practitioners who are also serious, right? And unlike your casual relationship, they will demand the demonstration from you. That's your advantage, isn't it? Are you beginning to understand how that is your advantage? Because ordinarily in your usual form of self-observation, there are blind spots about yourself you can't even see. Are you following me? You have blind spots. Now you are doing self-observation, but no matter how rigorously you involve yourself in self-observation, you're not seeing yourself as you really are because of the blind spots. Are you following me? Now you can see other stuff in other people, right, that they can't even see, because for them it's a blind spot. Your function is not to ignore it, right? It is to point that out. It's to point that out, you see? But you don't do that because you don't want to be pointed out. So you all have come into a kind of agreement, right? You'll let each other off the hook. You ain't going to say nothing to somebody about their shit, so that you can keep your shit up. You understand? It is political. That's not spiritual community. That's not Sangha. And when you behave like that, you are simply behaving like any other conventional group of people. That's all that is about. I have called you to become a Sangha. I don't intend for you to just get together and slap each other on the back, this kind of Sunday meeting gleefulness. That's not what I'm calling you to become at all. Not to come together and to be mealy-mouthed with each other, you know what I mean? Offering each other all kinds of excuses and cases to be let off the hook for the demonstration and the showing of the signs of evidence of your practice. I'm not calling you to do that. Calling you to be a real Sangha and to be governed by the real principle of that, to become a real satsangi, a conscious and deliberate practitioner. It is only to the extent that the other person is practicing that they can constitute good company for you. Are you following me? So it is in your own best interest to hold them and not let them off the hook. Because otherwise, what is the advantage of their company with you? You have no advantage in their company if they're not practicing. Are you clear about it? You simply have no advantage in association with anybody here who is not practicing. How are they an advantage to you? How? They are not. Nor are you an advantage to anybody if you're not practicing. Please make a note of that. It cuts both ways, doesn't it? If you are not practicing truly, no fooling, no kidding, you are of no advantage to anybody. You are fundamentally useless, spiritually speaking. All right? Because of your absence of practice, your tendency would be to let everybody off the hook in order to protect your own self, right? To keep anybody from saying anything to you about your own mediocrity and failure to demonstrate. Yes, beloved. No, this is what it's for. We're all family here today.
So, Master, when you see me showing all my vanity and my anger, my greed, my lust, and all the things not being good company, and you point out to me, my response should be, thank you.
Yes, yes. You should be grateful for that because they're showing you your blind spot that you couldn't see about yourself. You should be grateful for that. And rather than in that instance rebelling and all of that, right, you should make the appropriate adjustment there. You should check yourself. You see, beloved, what each of you must do, seriously, you must consider what is the ego drama that others have to deal with in relationship to you. Write it down. Find that out. What drama do others have to deal with in relationship to you? You got some drama. I want you to examine your drama. It's ego drama, of course, but I need you to examine it. You always got something that makes it difficult for others to deal with you. What is that? Find that out personally about yourself. You must see in what ways you are still childish in adolescence in your behavior. You got to get your behavior to the least to the level of an adult. Are you following me? Right? You must observe and see how you tend to still maintain childish and adolescent behavior within the context of your relationships with others. And that becomes an ordeal for other people in dealing with you, right? And in order to make yourself better company and good company in the truest sense of the word, you need to overcome all these childish and adolescent tendencies. Are you following me? Now, childish tendencies, you see, are those tendencies that always are purposed toward making yourself dependent upon others. That is childish. You follow me? It becomes part of the drama that people have to go through when they deal with you, right? They always got to do stuff for you, like you're a kid. You follow me? That is drama. It is an ordeal. And in that case, you'll be in difficult company, right? Or you are adolescent, always rebellious, right? And irresponsible. That is the real signs of adolescence, just irresponsible. Cannot be counted on, right? And people who deal with you, that's part of the drama that they have to deal with. You cannot be taken for your word. You'll say you're going to do something, but you wind up never doing it. And then coming up with some bullshit excuses for it. Now, you all have experienced that just in the doing of your ordinary Seva, if we could speak frankly. Is that about right? People say, well, all right, you come over Saturday to render Seva to me, or I'm going to get back to you and let you know, or they don't even get back to you at all. Is that about right? Or they call and say, I'm coming, and you never see them, do you? Right? That's irresponsible. It is adolescent. And that is a part of what people have to deal with when they're dealing with you. And that doesn't make you good company. Are you following me? Yes. So you must find out what drama others are always having to deal with in relationship to you and find that out personally. You must observe yourself and come to that level of understanding. Are you following me? That's what I call self-observation to the point of self-understanding. Now, I get the impression that many of you are confused on what I mean by self-observation. You think self-observation simply means watching yourself indulge in your own bullshit, just and taking like a running inventory. You know what I mean? Watching yourself to discover that, oh, I'm an asshole, and then you are content with that. You don't do anything about being an asshole. You follow me? That's not self-observation, right? That's just self-watching, but that's not self-observation, right? Self-observation is about coming to an understanding about what is still childish and adolescent in my behavior, and then becoming committed to the transcendence of that. That's the function of self-observation. So as we go into all of these principles of good company, it causes you now to again enter the process of self-observation, doesn't it? And go on a real search and transcend mission. Because you will be held accountable from this point on, starting today. I give each and every one of you licenses to hold each other fully accountable for the demonstration of the signs and evidence of their practice. No fooling, no kidding. I do not mean ridicule each other. I do not mean make mockery, because in that sense, you're simply being adolescent again, aren't you? So that's not what I'm talking about. And I'm not telling you that you can say any old thing that you want out of your mouth. I'm not telling you that either, right? Because, again, that is also childish and silly. So even your criticism and holding each other accountable, testing each other for the signs and evidence in the demonstration of practice has to be done out of a level of maturity, doesn't it? If you are testing me immaturely, then I get to test you right back, don't I? So all of this will take care of itself. But if you're doing it with the understanding that you're doing Seva to each other, you see, that's the difference. You're trying to really become a Sangha, and a source of refuge, and an advantage to each other, right? You are to be governed out of that spirit. Now you see, I know that Bilal has talked to you all about this Langar business, you see? And his instruction was, either eliminate it or hold everybody accountable. It's simple. You see? That's a demonstration of holding you accountable, isn't it? Right? You don't bring nothing, you don't eat nothing. But in spite of that, some of you will still not bring something or try to avoid bringing something, and you will come up with all kind of bullshit about it. You see my point? I forgot, I didn't have time, blah, 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 blah. That's, again, just a failure to demonstrate any of the signs of your real practice, isn't it? And you will be held accountable for it, and that will be pointed out to you. Don't get angry, get straight. That's all. So your response to being tested should be one of simply getting straight. That's all. Because this person is your advantage. You follow me? This person is your advantage. So you can't just go crazy with it, because you are also being held accountable. Are you following me? That's the beauty of it. You are not exempt. You understand? It's not like you just can walk around and say whatever you want without somebody holding you accountable. You're going to be held accountable too. That's what makes it a Sangha. And that is the discipline of that is associated with the sadhana of satsang. And there's much more that can be said about it, and perhaps we will come around to saying some more about it as time goes on. But today I certainly wanted to start you thinking in that direction, because I feel that you all are ready for it. I've been very pleased up to this point with your demonstration of the willingness to do Seva for each other, even of the lower species. Beautiful. I love it. You see, some of you have been catching buses doing Seva. I like that. Now, I like that. You see my point? Some of you have been, inconveniencing yourself, taking away your time, your energy, and attention to do that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. I love it, because you're showing me the signs and the evidence, right? But some of you have not risen to that occasion. Well, you're going to have to rise on up. Don't worry about it. I'm here to give you that help. That's what it's all about. So it's not about mocking nobody here. Are you clear? It's about helping each other. The person that is doing no Seva, right, for whatever reason, that is a person that needs your help, right? They need to be held accountable by you. You must be an advantage to them to point it out. Hey, that's bullshit you playing here. You know what I mean? Now, come on, you can do this. Come on. Inspire them. It is a sign of the lack of inspiration. One of the things you all are to do to each other is to inspire each other. Aren't you? Sure you are. To be each other inspiration. The Sangha is to be a culture full of both demands upon each other, but also inspiration. It must have both elements. Both elements. And once you have done that, you see, now there's a great advantage in each other's company. That is the real reason that we create communities like this. Now, because of the situation and circumstances, presently at least, you all cannot live physically around each other, where we could perfect it. So I have to create a virtual community, if you will, where I call you each week to go and do that 2.5 hour of Seva, right? So in that way, you see, you can still give each other these great gifts and be an advantage to each other. Now, I won't say much more about that. As I said already that Rani Kamari and Badraji and Kunsa will be doing a workshop. When is it? Next week? 2 weeks? I don't know. Sometime. Acha, 19. So they're preparing a very comprehensive Bajira. They're preparing a very comprehensive workshop, and you can bring to them all of your questions about it. I'm here simply to lay out before you for your consideration the principle of good company and what that's all about, and the disciplines and the ordeal that is associated with real satsang, and to become satsangi. I'm calling you today to become satsangi, but in the real sense of the word. Now, we have a little time left. Let's have some discussion about anything that I've said.
I must apologize. I didn't bring long guard today.
Well, you didn't know about it, so you have time to take somebody take it to the store. We need that 12 o'clock. Better get some potato chips, bring something in there. All right. Any questions about anything? It's pretty clear, isn't it? I mean, it's Christian. Christian. Pretty straightforward. Yes, beloved.
I hate to raise these things sometimes, but Master, it still gets to the point though where it's it's a demand for people to improve as opposed to casting out.
Yes.
So if someone quits, then they quit on their own. It's
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you will have that kind of fallout. The reason is that every person that comes to the path comes with their own inclinations. And everybody don't have the same inclination, or even, in fact, the same overall intentions. Now, some people who come to the path, based upon where they are at in terms of their own spiritual evolution, they may still be halfway in the world, you see, halfway out of the world. In that case, what they will demonstrate is a kind of waxing and waning. You see my point? Part of them is still mightily involved in the pursuit of the world. You see, what in the tradition we call they're full of boga savana. Boga means the pursuit of pleasure. So they're boga vasana, right? It's still high in them. So very often they will simply see sadhana and the goals of sadhana is a kind of hopeful possibility for them. I mean, they're hopeful about it, but they don't see it as real. The world they see is real. The spiritual they see is, maybe. So they would tend to have a little bit more fantasy about their spiritual life. But they really accept the reality of the world. That's real. You know, that's reality. That's real. And that's where I got to give most of my time, energy, and attention. You see my point? So that's because of the level of and the intensity of the Boga Vasana in their minds, you see. Then there are others who are a little bit more dinkarin, a little bit more evolved, right? Where it's just the reverse. You see my point? Where they see spirituality is real. And maybe, you know, maybe I'll be able to pay my mortgage this month. You see? I mean, it's reversed. So it gets involved, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that if you like, and some other occasion like this, when we have those rare moments when we can just kind of get together and really just talk about it. That takes us into a whole nother level of discussion. You see, you have to understand something about the categories of the sadakas. Sadakas is simply the term that the mystics use to refer to those individuals who come to the path. Just like there are different levels of sadhana, right? There are different levels of sadhana. And there are therefore different types of those who practice sadhanas. You know, there's levels. Different. What level of sadhana you get to practice depends on where you are at in terms of your personal spiritual evolution. Say, for instance, and I'm not going to say much about, were you here for the Spandakarika? Were you around then? I talked a little bit about it. Let's say that there are 4 upayas, or means, because sadhana is just the means by which one transcends that which must be transcended in order to have the experience of self. You have to remember that what is the purpose and goal that normally informs most sadhakas who come to any path and perform any kind of sadhana? What is the goal? Self-realization, right? And what does self-realization really consist of? It really consists of the ability to transcend this false sense of self, right? For the sake of realizing that self. Are you following me? The path then is usually responded to by people who have confessed a commitment to the transcendence of that which must be transcended for the sake of self-realization. Are you following me? Each of you have made a commitment to that, right? You have said that that is your purpose. Is that all right? Is that right? You came to the path, you asked for initiation. Did I hold a gun to anybody here? I mean, really not. Did I force you here? No. I mean, I simply responded to your confession. You told me, yes, Bhagwan, I've heard the arguments, I've thought about it all, I really made up my mind, and I have decided that I wish to devote my life to the goal of self and God realization. That Bhagwan, I have looked at all the other possibilities for my life and living, and I have concluded that of all of those other possibilities, nothing can even be seriously contemplated other than using my life for the sake of God realization. Is that about what you told me? Who didn't tell me that? Raise your hand. Who didn't imply? Because I can stand corrected, but if memory serves me correct. I even gave you 6 months, and some of you more than that, to think about it. I asked you to think about it, didn't I? To really give it thought. Well, anyway, at some point you confessed to me that this indeed is the purpose for which you will live, right? Now, you have confessed that purpose, and you must demonstrate it, that confession. Is that about right? Sadhana, then, is simply a way of demonstrating and honoring your own confession that you have made. Is that about right? Now, the problem, as I said before, is that, well, when you come to sadhana, you'll find that some people, even though they have confessed that as being their purpose, they need some help. Right? They need some help. And they need help because of the level of their own lack of purification. Are you following me? They are not yet pure enough to even keep their vows. Are you following me? They're not bad people. You understand me? They're not pure enough, which means that their mind still is full of so much obstacles that they can't act on that intention. They need to be helped. That's why they have such a struggle. Have you noticed? Whatever degree that you feel yourself struggling on the path is a reflection of your degree of impurity. Please make a note. That's what it is. Your struggle on the path reflects the degree of your own impurity. Your struggle to concentrate is simply a reflection of the impurity of your mind. That is all. Doesn't make you bad. You simply need some help. So there are levels of sadhana designed for each of us on the basis of where you are at. So I'm not going to go into them, but we talked about the Anu Upaya, we talked about the Sambhava Upaya, we talked about the Sakti Upaya, we talked about the Anava. Right? The Anava is that level of sadhana particularly aimed for the person that is suffering the greatest degree of impurity. Right? At the level of their mind, their bodies, etc. Right? So this level of sadhana now comes full of all kinds of discipline. There must be diet, we must discipline your diet, we must discipline this, we must discipline that, because you need all these external aids and help. So that's all that's about. But you're right. It's not so much as well as that you're going to be kicked out. You see my point? You might drop out. That's another matter. What can we do about that? You see, there are going to be people that drop out all over the world. I mean, that happens all the time. But if you are still serious about your original confession, help is available. And if you were really serious, you can't drop out. The dropout is fundamentally demonstrating the sign that they weren't serious in the first place. That's all. You see? Or that they were operating out of some illusion or fantasy about the nature of real spirituality. Because again, remember, beloved, most of us are bringing that same conventional mindset to the path. And for most people, religion and spirituality is never about demands being put on you for the demonstration and the showing of evidence of the signs of your practice. Just the opposite. Their expectation is to be consoled. Most individuals think that a spiritual community function is to console them and make them feel better, right? To let them off the hook and to provide them with all kinds of reasons to be let off the hook. They even think it's about self-improvement. This is not about no self-improvement. It's about self-transcendence. You follow me? Self-transcendence. But if you're still operating out of that kind of conventional point of view, then you immediately are confronted by this reality of the Sangha. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the Sangha. The Sangha gets you straight. Because it should be an extension of the Guru. You see, and it should function like a Guru. Straighten you out. It straightens you up. And then you really get to see. And then you have to confront that in yourself. And over time, you begin to see that all you're doing is getting involved in one spiritual community and running like hell to the next one. And you spend your whole life like that, running from one spiritual community to the next spiritual community, running from one guru to the next guru. You're running because whenever you encounter that wall, you don't want to submit to the real ordeal that is associated with your confession. Is that about right? There is a real ordeal associated with your confession of being purposed towards self and God realization. And no fooling, no kidding. There's a real ordeal that goes with that claim, right? And you should not be claiming that if you're not willing to go through the ordeal. Is that about right? Stop claiming it. That's all I ask you to do. You know what I mean? Stop telling people that you are seeking self and God realization. Simple. You know? That is all. And in that way, it's an advantage. I'm being an advantage to you. I'm telling you, stop bullshitting yourself. You know what I mean? You're creating a basis for great hypocrisy. You will lose respect for yourself eventually. You see my point? No need to do that. All right? Just stop it. But certainly, the culture in context of a Sangha is never merely purpose towards self-improvement. It is purpose towards self-transcendence. Self-transcendence. No fooling, no kidding. It is counter-egoic in its purpose, isn't it? That's its whole purpose, isn't it? I mean, do this make sense to any of you? Do you understand? The purpose of participating in a Sangha is to take advantage of the counter-egoic force of the Sangha, because that is consistent with your goal, isn't it? Which is to transcend that in you which is necessary in order to realize that which is the case. Yes, beloved.
You know, I went to 1A, 1B, and 1C. You know, EMH class, and I guess I'm going to remain in that EMH class for the rest of my life.
No, you got a Sangha. We're going to help you.
This Jana Machi, she taught me a lesson that was so, it was so beautiful. She called me up on the phone Friday, and she said, Seva, you got to let me do my Seva. And she told a story, whereas that if she fell, she would die before you. And it just touched me. And although Saturday was playing with all of my skating around, you know, I had my PH fire gym shoes, but after she told me that story, it just knocked me down. And I realized that the part of receiving, I didn't get it until she told me. And it was so beautiful. I mean, it just pierced me. She told the story, and of course, I can't tell it like she did, but God.
Or maybe we'll have her tell you that story during break so that everybody can feel like it. But the point is that you got it. And that was, again, pertaining fundamentally to the elementary form. You see my point? And so now we're going to a whole nother level. Don't play catch up this time. You see my point? The very fact that she had to even call you is a sign of the failure on your part to demonstrate the evidence of your practice. Now that's the reality, isn't it? It is simply a demonstration of the rhetorical level of your commitment to participate in real Seva, even at the social level. It is bullshitting her, telling her week after week, yeah, I'm busy, I'm too busy, you ain't that busy. You follow me? That's the truth. That's the truth. And it's not just you, it's everybody. It's the tendency in you. You have to understand, you have come to me from a background that bears almost no relationship to the real process that is involved here. You have not been conditioned to even relate to the real process. Or let me put it like this, you have been conditioned in a way that engaging in the real ordeal associated with real self and God realization is very difficult for you. You don't even have a framework for it, right? So you have to rebuild the whole structure here, right? You have to be educated. I have to take you back to school, you see? I have to school you, teach you from the bottom up. Just teaching you from the bottom up. It's all right, you see? But if you are to grow, then you're going to have to get down to the business of doing that which is required. And so, in summary, before we depart, because I want to kind of stay a little bit on time, because I know you have to reset this room and all of that, a couple of things that you have to remember. One, remember the confession of purpose. Remember this confession you have made about the purpose of your life. You'll notice that most of you, when you were doing your interim, I would have you send me those little meditation reports. And even then, if you remember your meditation reports, you all know the story. You could start seeing clearly then the contradiction. You were telling me on the one hand, I really want to get initiated, I really want to get on the path, and I said, okay, practice, but dear Bhagwan, I overslept. Oh, Bhagwan, I didn't. I mean, your first 10 reports are full of all excuse making to me. But you never see that because it's a blind spot in you. And you still come here full of your giddy devotionalism, and you still insist to me, oh, I really want to be on the path. I really want to, but you have a blind spot. You can't see that you're not demonstrating or showing me any signs of the evidence that you want to be on the path. Some of you didn't even send in the reports. You remember, right? Some guy, man, I believe somebody left the house because I asked him to send a report. You remember? He said, I quit. I'm out of here. Damn it, I'm not sending. Who is he? They can't stand none of the demands that is associated with the real ordeal. But you see, beloved, remember the confession of the purpose of using your life for the sake of God realization that you have made. Right? And you must become willing to submit to the ordeal that is necessary for the honoring of that confession. Are you following me? You must be willing to submit to the ordeal. You must. Or otherwise you cannot claim to be authentic about your confession. And remember, I'm pointing out, this confession is not at the level of belief. Let me repeat. Your belief in the Dharma, the mere belief in this Dharma is meaningless. Don't mean anything. It is the doing of the Dharma. You must do the Dharma in order to get its value, to get its fruits. You cannot get the Suttapana fruit on the basis of mere belief in the Dharma. That has never happened. So I don't want to create any kind of cult type of mentality in here. I believe in the Dharma, I'm therefore Radhasi. Like, that's the same thing you do with Christianity. Don't do that here. You see my point? Don't talk about being on the path and being a Radhasi or being a Satsangi and you're not doing any of the Dharma. I hold you, each and every one, responsible to make sure that that doesn't happen. So that if I get wiped out, it still can't happen. Because the Sangha is not going to let it happen. It's going to keep it high. You follow me? We're not going to deteriorate into chicken dinners. You understand? And bake sales. So remember your confession and honor that confession by truly surrendering to the ordeal that is associated with it. No fooling, no kidding. The next thing you must have is real intention. You must really be intending to do this. You must bring to it the requisite level of will. You must have the will. Now, even sometimes when you make the confession, you don't have the will to bring it into play. You don't have the will to do it. You must have the will. What I call Icha. In fact, I call Icha Devi because of this quality that she has, right? Will. But I thought she has to reverse her will. If you reverse your will, you're going to be something. You agree, Arjuna Sahib? Because she got the will, don't she? She just needs to turn it around. Icha. You must have requisite level of Icha, will. You must have the will for this thing. The will. The real intention upon fulfilling this purpose. If you have that, that will generate in you the kind of perseverance. You must be able to persevere. Notice that some of you can't persevere. You run out of steam. You give up. You get tired. You get discouraged. You get depressed and so forth and so on. I understand that. That's why you need perseverance. Today I've given you the gift of one another. to also enhance you in this area too, right? Because now you got a son guy. So if you are the beneficiary of our Seva, by 3 or 4 people in that given week, look what you got. You got yourself an extra 10 hours of practice. Ain't that nice? Yeah, you're nodding your head now, but I'll get the call. Bhagwan, take me out of the lottery. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody. Like, how am I not tell anybody? What, you want people to still show up and you out of the lottery? What kind of racket you trying to pull? You know, you out, get your ass out. But be a man or woman about it. Don't hide in the dark about it. Perseverance. You must have that quality. And of course, that leads to effective practice. Because your practice must be effective. You must effectively practice. Now, we talked a little bit about that last time at Sit Song, about effective practicing. You must effectively practice. Now, you all know that nothing is happening with this 2.5 hours. That's not effective practice. 2.5 hours a day is not effective. I know this is upsetting. I know you were hoping that you'd get, even maybe make it with half of that. You right? But I'm bringing all of that hopefulness to an end today. I'm reminding you, 2.5 hours a day is not effective. You yourself have seen it already in your own practice. Those of you who have been able to do it, it's not effective. It's not enough. It's just not enough. And the question is, how can you get more time and energy and attention for more practice? Well, I have given you the gift of this Sangat. And their willingness to sacrifice on your behalf to enable you to have more time, more energy, and more attention for the sake of fulfilling your confessed purpose in life. It doesn't get better than that, folks. Nobody's going to do it for you, of course. But we will do everything in our power to be an advantage for you. So you can't come around us and mealy mouth and, oh, shucks, I just can't meditate and expect somebody else to do it on your behalf. No, nobody else is going to get you straight on your own behalf. You must get straight. We'll provide the context, but that's your work. You have to get straight. It's that simple. And really effectively practice. And to effectively practice, you will have to create a pattern of renunciation in your household or context. Are you following me? Those of you who have read, I don't know, some of you I know have been reading the Philosophy of the Master series and so forth, but if in one of those series, I don't remember which one, maybe series 2 or 3, if you read in there, Great Master talks about the sadhana of marriage life, and you'll be shocked, you see, what the masters talk about. In fact, they'll tell you, after the age of 40, 50, you shouldn't even be living like a husband and wife no more. All that should be over with. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, they put prescriptions on sex, you understand? I remember when Kirkwood and I first got initiated, we were reading that stuff, and, you know, you all get it. You think that you can really, you know, live like that. And so Kirkwood, we were talking about this whole thing about the discipline of sexual behavior within the context of marriage and how to pattern that activity in the form of renunciation. And so our children are kind of close together, Kirkwood and ours. And so after his wife had one of the kids, he decided, well, I'm going to follow the prescriptions of the gurus, which says that for 2.5 years there should be no sex, right? He actually made it about a year. You know what I mean? Before, you know. But the point is, you get a taste of it's a very different way of being a householder than what you're thinking about. You think being a householder, have your big screen TV and your kids all around you and on your bouncing on your knees and working your fingers to the bone to pay for everything and making sure everything is up and running. In fact, your concept of being a householder is to devote all your time, energy, and attention to your family. If you do that, how will you have any time, energy, and attention to devote to other sentient beings? How? Where would you get it from to finance your bodhisattva rhetoric? Where? You simply have no time to function like bodhisattva. If you devote all of your time to your wife, your husband, your children, and your family, what time will you have for the Lord? You simply will not have no time for the Lord. You will have no time for practice. You will have no time for the path. You will have no time for each other. And that is what has happened. That is what has been demonstrated even at the level of social Seva. Haven't I demonstrated that? Who hasn't had a first-hand experience? You all have had it. You found out you don't have time for each other. Right. Because you devoted all your time to the wrong form of being a householder and the wrong concept of what it means to be a householder in the spiritual sense of the word. So today I wanted to redefine for you the spiritual definition of what it means to be a householder versus the conventional definition of what it means to be a householder, for the sake of rescuing you from your conventional practice of being a householder, which will leave you completely bereft of time, energy, and attention for the practice of real sadhana. Are you following me, beloved? So hopefully today this has added some clarity to it. And I have given you the gift of one another's company as a means of enabling you to repattern the way you are operating as a householder in such a way that you will have more time freed up for. Because that's all renunciation is about, isn't it? It's about the retrieval of time, energy, and attention from South, from the world. Isn't that about it? That's all it is, isn't it? Retrieving some of that time, energy, and attention. And then if you will hear and respond to what I called you to do, then that will cause you to enter into some further self-observation, right? And you must discover and find out anything and everything that predisposes you or prevents you from really being good company to each other. Find out what is an obstacle in the way of your being good company. Because if you're not providing people with the opportunity to retrieve more time, energy, then are you really being good company here in this Sangha? Are you? You're really not functioning as good company. Yes, beloved. Well, that's nice, but fundamentally, it's there to give you the time. You follow me? Because in order for you to practice, they may have to take your wife grocery shopping. How would they do that? You see my point?
You know, because there's been occasions where I really don't have anything for me to do. And that's what we get to. And if I'm going to take that time to say.
Well, I'll leave that between the two of you. I suppose nothing's wrong with that. But I don't want to get into this social setting. You follow me? You may not have anything for them to do, but if you are practicing the conventional type of householderism, there's almost always something for somebody to do. You may not want them to do that thing. That's another matter. You follow me? But your situation is characterized by the absence of time and energy. You see my point? So there's something to do. Sure, something to do. But you should do, if you don't have anything to do, you use that time and wait till there is something to do. It'll be something to do in a few minutes. You see my point? And that way you get to get 2.5 more hours. So instead of 2.5, you got 5 that day. Ain't that nice? Yeah. So if you know that if Running Kamari, if you have to go pick up Running Kamari, or you're going to take her somewhere, or you should have taken her somewhere, or you've been intending to take her somewhere, or you're going to take her somewhere Saturday, it's Tuesday, let them do the Seva that the running you're going to do Saturday, let them do it now. That saves you some time Saturday, right? You follow me? So it's all kinds of ways to creatively take advantage of the gift of that Seva. Oh, but of course, I leave that to each of you. I think you all are intelligent enough about that. I don't want to get into all of the little details. I trust your intuition about it all. But I wanted to set the fundamental concept before you. That is the way to do Seva. And again, if it's Seva related, I'm going to leave those questions primarily to Kunsa and Rani Kamari and Bajira when they do their workshop, because they'll have the long answers for you. Yes, beloved, last.
So if 10 people pull your name, you just got to spread that out so that you have 10 times to do 2.5 hours. I mean, you wouldn't say, okay, all 10, come on, because then you technically would only get 2.5 hours if they all came together.
Yes, if they all,
So
it won't be no more group
Yeah, okay.
type of thing in that sense, right? That is obviously. So you all can't show up, you know what I mean, and do that, right? Unless that person wants you to do that, in the sense, let's say, I remember you all showed up as a group over Bilal house to do the tape Seva, right? Now, if you were doing that Seva for Bilal, then Bilal could have had that 2 or 3 hours to go sit down somewhere. But he couldn't. You see, but that's the right way to do the Seva. You see my point? That's the right. So I mean, it works if you become clear on the principle. Then you can make it work. You may have to tweak it a little bit, and you have more time to tweak it. And I will be watching, and we will have an occasion, like now we're having this occasion to review the Seva to this point, right? So maybe after 6 months or so, I will review it again with you and point out some blind spots here and there. But overall, I'm very pleased. You understand? I'm very happy with that, because that's a good sign. That's why I'm having this conversation, because you all have demonstrated the signs of that level of maturity. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be sitting here having this conversation. So I believe in my heart of hearts that you are ready to go to the next level, right? And therefore the next level of benefits. And that Seva at that level, that's where it's at. That's where it's at. Because that's exactly what you need. You need the time and the energy and the attention to devote to the fulfillment of the confession of your life being purpose toward self and God realization. Is that about right?